maintain living, right? It's need to so this the open thinking so that's why Hong Kong now open up their market. They are opening up fintech. They have set up this virtual bank. So we are one of the first page to apply this virtual bank license in Hong Kong. So I think bank it's quite easy for bank to make money doing before, and I think the banks normally care for people with big pocket. So you go to private banking, you can get better services, but I think for mass market, I think it's so convenient. And also, I think one of the biggest challenges I have been in big banking for many years, the Credit Suisse market is regulation, is the compliance risk and the compliance border. The banks spend tons of money in the compliance. They hire good people, they hire good training, hire good compliance. But this can process through technology, right? You can reduce the compliance risk. When I was in investment banking at foreign banks, I actually spend more time globally dealing with compliance. It doesn't make sense, right? I spend a couple hours every day to talking to my compliance officers. You take time to provide better service to your clients, and the compliance work can be processed by big data, can be processed by AI. So I think there is always opportunity. I think there's maybe especially in some market that people think service also is already very good, but I think people can enjoy better services.
Shiro Armstrong, you've been looking at Australian and East Asian relations for quite a long time now. We're looking at Chinese investment in Australia. The database that's come out this morning has shown a big drop, 40% drop in the past year. What are the fundamental forces you see as driving all of this?
Yeah, well, 40% drop is pretty big, and the other databases don't show such a big drop. Some of that is unrealised investment, announced and signed, but not realised last year. So I think we talked about it already earlier on, but the tightening going out in China, capital controls is part of that. So China's investment average investment fell 20%. It fell more significantly into Australia at 40%. So you have to ask questions there about the tightening around our regime and focus on national security. And that's not just unique to Australia, it's the United States and other economies. Focusing on the national security aspect and screening there. And on top of that, I think our relationship's going to be a little bit rocky, and that can't help between Australia and China. So we have traditionally dug up all sorts of rocks and shipped them to China as quickly as possible. We're a little bit more concerned when it's investment coming to buy up land and other assets which they can't move. Just Chinese, but any foreign owner cannot move offshore. So I think we need to think about what's important here. And maybe just as the commodity boom has ended, the prices have come down. We used to be the largest destination for Chinese investment in the world, larger than all the Chinese investment in the United States. We're no longer that, and that's to be expected a little bit because of the investment of commodity booms come off. So investment from China has already started, but will continue to diversify across different sectors. So this is where we need to be a little bit more, I think, confident in our regimes, environmental, labour standards, and protecting those, and having confidence in our tax office and our domestic regimes to protect against foreign investment that might be trying to undermine some of those or shipping profits abroad, and then making sure that our security screening is not dominating the decision making, but is placed in a more broader cost-benefit analysis, where we think about some of the costs, the large costs for turning away shipping, mentioned 2 or 3 billion a year, 5 or 6 billion, and CIC finds a bit of a blockage in, say, Australia or any country for national security. You repackage, look at the project elsewhere. That's pretty big money. It's flying around if you go to other markets if we're not confident in our decisions.
And how would you see the trade war, the Trump-Beijing trade war, as playing into global capital flows that might affect Chinese outflows into, say, Australia?
Yeah, this is really worrying. I think Andrew Parker mentioned before the close relationship between trade and investment. The headlines for the trade war on the tariffs, the US tariffs on Chinese imports, and the retaliatory measures by China. That's already problematic for trade and confidence. The Secretary mentions only a small part of trade right now, but there's a threat for more tariffs, and not just on China, but other countries. So we're in a Trump world now where we're dealing in bilateral dealings. There's every country individually against Trump having to make these difficult decisions. So that's on the trade front, that's worrying enough. And that's already undermining confidence in the WTO and global trade. But this is also affecting the investment environment and the tightening of screening in the United States and the sort of shifting mood in the United States towards blocking Chinese investment from coming in because it's a competitor, it's unfair technology theft, and this argument of reciprocity. American investment can't go into China, so we should stop Chinese investment coming into America. All pretty bad and dangerous developments. So I'm hoping we don't follow suit in here with our investment environment, and other countries don't do that.
So just to pressure on the trade thing, could there be perhaps some might say the annoying kernel of truth in what Trump might say is that, well, the Chinese have developed the world's second or largest economy on the back of open Western economies, and the Chinese economy isn't as open to investment, for example, as some of the others. And just as Trump maybe has smashed the Canadians over the head and opened up their dairy industry and dairy market in NAFTA, that he may be able, as part of all this, it may end up, although being high risk along the way, may end up opening up more of the Chinese economy.
Yeah, so that's a pretty high risk proposition, even if it were correct. I don't think it's correct. I mean, China's the largest trading nation in the world. Some sectors are still protected, and I think there's efforts to open those up, and we want them open, but to be trying to hold a stick over China and real significant punishment that will actually damage the global economy to try to open a few sectors in China is not the way to go about it. So it's a worrying development from the US president that thinks trade deficits, bilateral trade deficits are a problem. It's nonsense. That's putting the entire system at risk. So I think that's where countries like Australia, China took a $200 billion package to Washington, the Chinese took a package that the Americans rejected. And that would have been buying more agriculture, gas, doing a deal outside of the established rules. That deal would have prevented the trade war, prevented the tit-for-tat descent into the trade war. But just think about what that would have done for our company, for example. More agriculture and gas from the United States as a special deal would cut across our business interests, our economic interests significantly, as well as other countries. So, even if that generous reading of what Trump is accidentally doing becomes true, we're in for a pretty bumpy road.
And when you combine trade war and investment restrictions, is it really now become more than just pure economics? It's become really clash of system or even civilizations, if you like, that countries such as Australia are being sort of forced to line up on extreme decisions. Are we going to be with the Americans over a broader geopolitical struggle?
Well, I don't think we want to choose countries here. We want to choose the international rules and institutions. So you said China became rich over Trump's possible view off the back of other open economies. Well, China signed up to the rules of the game in the WTO accession process. That was in 2001 and benefited greatly. So it signed up to those rules and has largely obeyed those rules, much better than many other countries actually. So it's in our interest to broaden those rules, spread those rules and strengthen them. They don't cover investment largely, so it's trade. There's no WTO for investment. So investment's done unilaterally or bilaterally. And that's all sorts of different systems of fragmentation of rules and different environments that have to be navigated. So one positive development is the international, the investment facilitation agreement in the WTO. So Australia signed up to this with China and a few others to develop thinking on an investment facilitation agreement to develop some rules and best practices for behind the border And this is the sort of thing I think we want to be doing, and doubling down on those rules, which, at this stage it's the United States which is trying to tear them up and undermine. So we don't want to be picking countries here. We want to be picking rules, because we should be afraid, every large country, if those rules break down.
Now, Jennifer Hewitt, if we could turn to you. You've been in the front line reporting for the Financial Review about some of these key decisions that are investment decisions, restricting Chinese investment into Australia, and maybe since the decision to allow the Chinese company Landbridge, I think, to buy the Port of Darwin. That was seen as perhaps a bit of a watermark decision, produced a bit of a backlash in Washington. There's been restrictions on Chinese investment, I think, in electricity distribution, in Ausgrid, restrictions on Huawei into the national broadband network and the 5G, and perhaps now we're waiting to see the CKI proposal to buy the APA gas pipeline group, and you start to think, well, how does gas pipelines fit in with these other things? But perhaps you could give us some sense of what's your take on how intelligence and security issues have really started to go to the forefront of Australian foreign investment decision making.
Well, I think the mood has changed quite significantly, and although the Landbridge acquisition, I think in 2015, was certainly significant, let's not forget that before that there was the whole, I think it first came to public attention when there was a very big stake that wanted to be in Rio, and then the government the then Labor government made all sorts of changes to the rules then, and tried to say this is what they're allowed.
Chinalco, was it?
Yes, in Chinalco, yeah. And then, of course, Huawei was prevented from any involvement in the NBN, again by the former Labor government, confirmed by the Labor government. So there's a bit of a history. And although, but I think it's then kind of come to the fore again after Landbridge. At the same time, I think that I understand the views expressed about real estate prices in Sydney and Melbourne being due to a whole lot of factors. The fact that the Chinese investment was so prominent, I think that really added to the mood overall. And while I think that it's very important to focus on facts, as Phil Gachin said, and get some of the emotive fears or prejudices out of as much as possible, I don't think actually you can get away from it. I mean, that is going to be there as a backdrop. One player in the telecom industry said to me, look, the recent decision, for example, with Huawei, Huawei was completely, in a sense, correct on the technical arguments about what they could offer, with the competition they provided and things like that. But he said that they were losing on the trust argument. And that continues to be, and I think is probably more so, an issue now than it's ever been in the Australian-Chinese relationship. There are many reasons for that. Obviously, again, as Phil said, the benefits of foreign investment tend not to be quite so obvious to people, and the cost of actually restricting that only become evident, over time. But I think there has been a hardening of there's certainly a greater wariness, I think, about Chinese ambitions over the last few years and what it actually means to national security and national interests and how that should be defined. And I think that's affecting Australia as well.
So when you take a Huawei in the NBN or the 5G network, what do you think? Now, you I think wrote how the former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull might have been more amenable at one stage, but he became very much influenced by the security agencies in Australia. And I think if I heard him right, Phil Gachin's talked about certain decisions that could not have been made any other way, I think, were the terms that the Treasury Secretary made. What do you understand, because it's all done a bit vaguely, the final decision, it's deliberately obtuse, what do you understand is the case against?
Well, I think that's where that whole kind of division between transparency and being kind of politely diplomatic also gets very, very murky when you're looking at Chinese investment. Obviously, we talk about in Australia, we talk about all foreign investment. We're very careful to say it's not directed to China in particular, as it would not be, officially. But I do think that, for example, in terms of the facts and the technology, there was some hope certainly by Huawei, that they would be able to emulate the policy that had applied in Canada and Britain, which was to be and actually was applying to the 4G network after they were blocked from the NBN, was to still provide equipment to the non-core areas of the network. And there was some interest in that, certainly from Malcolm Turnbull as well. And the argument against, I suppose, and that seemed to be the one that was carried very much by Peter Dutton as well, was on national security grounds. And in fact, that becomes a kind of a harder issue to explain in any kind of public way, because a lot of it is not actually based on evidence. It's on the potential of what might be able to happen. And of course, you know, Huawei would say, for example, there's absolutely no way they would compromise their very successful business model by allowing, you know, them to be influenced by, you know, by security drivers from the Chinese government or whatever. And yet you've got obviously a security establishment in Australia, I think also in cooperation with the US, saying that there's the potential. And so, although we want to say, yes, let's get those facts out on the table, it's very hard to actually, it's a kind of nebulous cloud that does become much more about mood and sentiment as well as facts.
And what would your forecast be for the Treasurer's decision on the CKI takeover bid for the gas pipeline APA?
I think, well, as we saw with Ausgrid, which is where CKI was blocked as well, and everyone said, well, look, that is a Hong Kong-based, you know, global company that's entirely different from the Chinese company. How would this happen? I think it's going to be quite hard for the government to accept that bid. And again, you know, you can have your kind of decision on facts, you can, or you can talk again about potential and the concentration of the market. Obviously, CKI's got, you know, extensive, you know, there's a lot of involvement here already. I think politically they've probably blocked it, but of course it is up to the Treasurer.
I can tell you some national security case. I face some case. I can tell you. I can. Okay.
Yeah.
For example, the.
What?
Okay. For example, the CAC we buy the Heathrow Airport 10%. So far, Heathrow Airport 10%. And also, I want to buy some airport in the United States. United States, so it's funny. It's very, very high national security. The UK, so okay, it's open. And also, CAC, we're holding the Thames Water. We're holding about 15%, 15%. It's very profit. It's a water company generally, very good infrastructure. I also want to buy. I just looking for United States water company. United States is so impossible. Water company absolutely only can investment United Citizen company. Okay, so another China air company buy the Germany airport 100%. Germany said okay, open. So in my case, because I talking a lot of the case and talking with the different country, the national security agencies. One person, one policy. One country, one policy. Big difference.
So you, in your piece, you say that the strengthening of security reviews in developed countries creates barriers to entry for foreign investors, and that national security reviews are now the most important form of what you call investment protectionism. So are you claiming that this is a form of protectionism, the security reviews, and blocking of Chinese foreign
protectionism, I think local government protectionism is Canada is very, very clear. And Australia is very clear because this big country, very big natural resources. So he's very care about environment protection. In the other industrial country, the environment protection policy is not big effective influence foreign investment.
Yeah, not
These two countries.
But you say in your that national security reviews are a form of investment protectionism, not environmental investment protectionism. Are you saying that's what's going on, say, in Australia at the moment? There's a sort of form of investment protectionism, the protecting perhaps economic interests over security. Is that the case that you might make?
In Australia, so far we have not faced some case. Is very clear. Told me this is protectionism. He just say no, it cannot. For example, we have built the Australia some local the electricity network.
Yeah.
I just built. And only small shareholder, not a majority. He told me, no, you cannot do this. I said, okay, I cannot.
So you're saying that is a form of investment
No,
protection?
no.
You're saying it's not?
I don't think your country is protectionism. He just thinking about maybe the electricity network a little sensitive for CAC.